If you want to carry a fixed blade knife every day, but you don't want a big obnoxious sheath hanging off your belt, I'm going to go over 2 of the best ways to incorporate a fixed blade into your everyday carry. Hey everyone, David C. Anderson here, coming at you from the KnifeCenter. Welcome to episode 261 of KniFAQ, the series where I answer all your questions, sharp or dull. What I do is I attempt to do that. I take your questions from the comments section below these videos, so if you've got a question, drop it below. I attempt to answer them the best I can, and then Thomas behind the camera makes comments of some sort.
Octave.
Oftentimes I have no idea what he's talking about, but that's fine. Let us get into the first question for today, which comes from Adams Glenn D. Hi, thanks for all the great content. Thank you for your comments, sir. I've recently discovered knives as a hobby, and your channel has been great. This video, I forget which video he was commenting on actually, left me with a couple questions about neck knives. I see the appeal of a small fixed blade carried in a pocket, but neck knife is baffling. In what situation would it be appropriate? Both in terms of usability and being socially acceptable, and when wearing a neck knife, how do you keep it from flopping around and getting in the way of whatever you're doing? Happy to join because, or happy to attempt to answer this question. I think you hit on the reason why in the last several years especially, pocket carried fixed blades have been on the rise at the expense probably of the neck knife genre, which previously was sort of, prior to the pocket fixed blade trend rising, was the kind of preferred or most often talked about way of carrying a small or smallish at least fixed blade every day. And I think it makes perfect sense to me because it seems way less weird to carry a knife in your pocket than it does around your neck, as you alluded to in your statement right there. So the potential for people to get into the genre, way bigger. I'm going to go over the pros and cons of each here real quick. Because if you don't want a big sheath hanging off your belt that's going to advertise you're carrying a big knife, that's not necessarily socially acceptable in certain places. Other places, I was just in Montana a couple weeks ago camping with some friends. That would be not at all out of place, but each environment is, of course, different. There are some folks who go with inside the waistband carry. That's a whole other can of worms. I've done it a little bit, kind of experimenting, enough to know that I've got too much of a gut to make it work for me, but your mileage may vary. Anyway, historical context first for neck knives. I've got this knife right here. This is maybe a little bit on the large side for a typical neck knife. This is the Kellum Wolfpack Prowler. Made in Finland, curly birch handle. It's insanely comfortable, 2.8-inch carbon steel blade, Scandi grind. And this represents sort of, at least the genre of how I got into or first learned how to understand neck knives. And that was in outdoor circles, outdoorsmen, bushcrafting, survival, those types of genres and those types of events that I used to attend more often than I get a chance to now, unfortunately. Historically, and this may be apocryphal, the Scandinavian or Nordic countries, because Finland's not Scandinavia. These are Finnish, right? Yes, they are.
I'm just wondering if we're advertising for the post office again.
Oh, daggone it. Thank you for reminding me. Could have done so earlier.
You gotta stop putting it in.
You clearly weren't paying attention either. Where was I? Anyway.
Finland.
The historical example I often hear talked about, and they may not have been the first people to do this, but it is frequently cited in the bushcraft circles, especially where the Nordic peoples would often carry knives around their neck. There's reasons they did that are still applicable today. It's cold up there, so they're wearing heavy coats and clothing. So things carried on the belt would be, unless it's a belt, belted over all the clothing, more difficult to access. That holds true today, whether you're winter camping, whether you're hiking, you've got a hiking backpack on with a hip strap, that can interfere with waist belt carried goods. Great opportunity to take advantage of what a neck knife can offer. They often carried them tip down, which is opposite of the way we often do nowadays, of course, too. In sheaths similar to this, with a swell in the handle and a sheath that really hugs the edge right here. The reason they carried it like so, and with this style of sheath, it's cold up there, and it snows.
Citation needed.
Citation. Snow does has a harder time getting into the sheath right here, and it's cold up there, so rivers freeze over. I feel like I'm being way too aggressive about this point.
Cool down on that.
Again, this may be apocryphal, but I've heard it plenty enough times. If you were to be walking on ice and you fall through, you're maybe only holding yourself up barely like this, you could still get to a neck knife and use it sort of as like a piton or something to, anchor in the ice, pull yourself out. Anyway, that is some historical precedent, at least, for a traditional neck knife in terms of nowadays. I already mentioned big, bulky winter clothing. A neck knife could, make for easier access. Hiking pack, easier access for sure. As for, let's see, other places here, concealment. This would be harder to conceal. This would probably print here, but something like the minimalist Nesmuk, this version of which just debuted. Great neck knife. And you would carry it right there, could lay pretty darn flat, and that is how you would, solve two things: the socially acceptable nature. You would also solve the, dangling around into whatever you're working. Have it inside the shirt. Downsides: it's going to take two hands to access it if it is inside your shirt, as opposed to one if it is not. And these can often be resheathed with one hand, depending on the sheath system, I will say. That's definitely a downside. And also, a lot of people are going to think it's just kind of weird. Perfect example. We have a guy who works upstairs, one of our product guys and customs guys. Fell in love with a dogwood kit, or it was a cub, I think, that we picked up from Blade Show a couple years ago. He decided to buy it for himself, threw it around his neck, wore it home, and his wife, who knows what he does for a living and is perfectly accepting of his knifely choices, as soon as he walked through the door, she looked at him and goes, "Absolutely not." That's outside the shirt, it's almost as obnoxious, quote unquote, in certain environments as a big sheath on your belt, which is why pocket fixed blades make a lot of sense. I will say, the minimalist here can be worn around the neck, and for a neck knife, I always like to recommend 2 rivets on the hanging side, because if it's just on one hole, it could twist around a lot more easily. This is going to lay a lot flatter and lay in the correct orientation for drawing. This also comes with a belt attachment, and many neck knives out there can easily be converted to pocket carry with an ulti-clip. This is the Slim 3.3 right here. I think many of the ulti-clip sizes will work, but I like this one, kind of broadly speaking, for just a jack-of-all-trades ulti-clip. It comes with attachment hardware, and it's 2 slots rather than defined holes, which means no matter what the hole pattern on the sheath in question, you will likely be able to find a place where it can fit. Then you slip it into your jeans pocket, strap this down, and it clamps into place. So this is not moving around at all. That's going to be like the most secure pocket carry method that's out there, quite frankly. It works exceptionally well. It's not really sexy, though, in my opinion, even though this is kind of a schmacky blade, don't you think?
You're biased.
I may be. I like pocket fixed blades, and I like Nesmucky things. So, what are you going to do? Why didn't I pick the Nesmucky Pocket Tango then? Because the clip point is newer, that's all. Other options for a pocketable sheath. MKM does a lot of these. Straight Line EDC does a few of these as well. A magnetic leather pocket sheath, which you could have right here. I've seen there are certainly leather pocket sheaths that incorporate an ulti-clip. There are leather pocket sheaths that incorporate a simple like knife-style pocket clip as well. Those work. I really like the magnet system that our friend Igor came up with here, though. And that's why you see it with MKM and Straight Line EDC in particular. Slip it into the pocket. That keeps it nice and classy looking. This, it's a little stiff when they come out of the box, but they break in super, super nicely, and then it's real easy to take out. Why does a pocket fixed blade make more sense to more people than a neck knife? It's way less weird. Quite honestly. It's still a little more weird than just a folding pocket knife, just because it's less expected, certainly. But pocket knife is already de rigueur. It's expected. It is normalized. There are people who still don't like it, but we don't talk about those people. But a pocket knife is more normal. This one just happens to not fold. Which carry method is right for you for everyday carry? What else can I say about a pocket fixed blade? I mean, I spent a lot of time talking about the neck knife concept and when it would be appropriate. A pocket fixed blade is just more, I don't know, it's more normal feeling, more everyday, normal, generic people friendly than a neck knife. It's less specialized and therefore more versatile, maybe?
Fewer people care about what's in your pocket than what's on your belt.
True. That actually brings me to another point. Disadvantage of a pocket fixed blade is it takes up space in your pocket. Advantage of a neck knife is it frees up space in your pocket to put other stuff. So, there are reasons to have each. I think they all boil down to the neck knife is weird, yet has, paraphrasing here, or generalizing. The neck knife is a little more strange, yet has some very distinct advantages. But the pocket carry fixed blade is more generically acceptable, more generically useful, perhaps. I don't know.
Either one's getting us invited to parties.
I got nothing. Let me see if I had some notes here. Let me see if I made or got everything here. Yeah, I mean, if you're wondering why not just carry a folding knife, well, a everyday carry fixed blade, whether it's carried around the neck or in the pocket, fewer moving parts, so it's less to go wrong. Oftentimes can be stronger, although, there's certainly examples of, flimsy, small fixed blades that, a cold steel will be able to beat to smithereens, of course. But generally speaking, they're more durable, more reliable, easier to keep clean. But you usually aren't going to be able to get as much blade in your pocket as you could with a folder. So that's a disadvantage of small fixed blades for everyday carry in general. But anyway, pocket or neck carry? Let me know in the comments. All right, enough of that. Let's get to the lightning round for today. Chicken Drumstick says, hey, DCA, question. Of all the various knives made by gun companies or just branded by a gun company, what are your top picks? Thanks. Yeah, I don't think any actual gun company is actually handling the making of their knives, but anything made by Hogue is at the tops, essentially. Tops knives. That's funny. Hogue is not technically a gun company. They are a gun accessory company. They also make way more things beyond the gun industry, but they don't make guns as far as I know, unless they're hiding something. A lot of the times the SIG knives are rebranded versions of existing Hogue knives, but that's not the case with the K320 right here. Such a cool knife. I like the inlaid versions, especially in terms of what's currently available. Crossbar lock, a 4 pocket clip position crossbar lock, which is a rarity these days, and just the level of quality that Hogue gives you, especially for the dollar, is pretty impressive. And yes, they are American made, so there are cheaper gun branded knives out there. In fact, Iconic, EIKONIC, makes some SIG knives as well, but the Hogue made SIG knives especially are like tippy tops, man. They are just awesome. Any Hogue knife, Tonto or drop point, can be had. Yes, we've had exclusives of this in the past with Magna Cut Steel. We're hoping to have a new variant of an exclusive on this at some point in the future, but as of right now, all sold out, unfortunately. So this is what you got. The 4CP asks, what is the one, I picked 2, I didn't read 1. One discontinued knife you regret not buying. Mine is the original Saber Grind Schrade Jess X. We've talked about discoed knives before. Most of the discontinued knives that I wish were still around, I have multiples of. So like the Becker BK5, for example. I've got enough of those. The Lone Wolf Ritter knife, I've got one of those. So, but what I don't have, and I wish I did, was an Alox Swiss Army knife Rambler. Because the Rambler, what I have is the Mini Champ Alox, because it's about the same thickness as a standard Rambler, but really the Rambler has everything I want in a keychain knife. You've got the blade, you've got the combo tool here with the wire stripper, the bottle opener, and the Phillips screwdriver. Other side, you've got skizzers, and you have got the small flathead on the end of the nail file right here. With the A-locks, you'd give up the toothpick and tweezers. I don't mind that too much, but like how classy is the A-locks Classic right here for a keychain tool? Super, super nice. I wish I had an A-locks Rambler. Yeah, I suppose I could mod one to do it, but who's got that kind of time? The other one I really wish I had, because you said one, but I picked two. Also from Victorinox, the Voyageur, which is essentially the A-locks Bantam, which has the combo tool here, which does can and bottle opening and screw driving and Phillips in a pinch with this corner and wire stripping and the blade. The Voyageur, and yes, it's the EUR whatever, is this plus scissors, which is awesome. They don't make scissors in this size of Swiss Army knife anymore, which is a shame. If I had like access to like a bunch of new old stock Voyageurs, I would buy every single one I could. And then I would sell them for a markup. I would carry a few and I would mod some cadets. Take the scissors from those and put them on the cadets, man. Anyway, I wish I had those. What discontinued knives do you wish you had that you regret not buying? Anyway, we come now to our most finalist question of the day, which is, of course, our most seriousest question of the day, which comes from Free State Fellow. Most serious question. What knife would you choose to simply walk into Mordor? Because this product exists, it's obviously Sting. In this case from CRKT and AG Russell. I don't know where else to go with that. Make your
eagle.
I was going to say, go and make your walking joke about that story.
I'll let it stroll.
Thomas thinks the books are pointless because it's just a bunch of walking, but I like walking in the wilds. I could probably do with a little bit more of that. Anyway,
Okay.
That's all we got time for today, folks. Keep your questions coming. Keep your most seriousest questions coming. Let me know. Pocket carry or neck carry for a small, everyday fixed blade. State your preference and state your favorite model for either in this case as well in the comments. Did I say keep your questions coming? Yes, I did. If you want to get your hands on any of these knives here, check out the links in the description. They'll take you to KnifeCenter.com. And don't forget about our long-running Knife Rewards program so you can get free money to spend on your next one or I'm petering out and that other thing.
The other thing, yeah.
Sezzle if you want to break things into smaller payments. I'm David C. Anderson from the Knife Center. That's Thomas behind the camera. We'll see you next time.